Hi, I'm Scott Blossom, and this week I'm going to talk about movement, and that's as a different category of than exercise. And if you don't know me, my background's in traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda for the last couple of decades, and I have a biology degree, so I always, in my clinical practice as well as here, like to integrate ancient wisdom with science because that's what makes me happy. So in this context, the idea of movement is actually very similar to what we're finding in the research about the microbiome, which is that the definition of healthy movement is actually the diversity of movements that you engage in. It's not a certain kind of movement, it's actually the full diverse range of movements that you engage in. And so, for example, right now in certain sort of fitness and exercise contexts, there's a much more narrowly defined idea of fitness. And right in the most basic idea is that if you're exercising an hour a day, then you're an active person, and it implies that you're fit. And that's true to some degree, but it's actually more accurate to say that if you're only doing one exercise an hour a day, say it's walking or riding a bike or something like that, there's a lot of exercises that have very limited movements involved in them. So certain muscle groups, certain joints, the cardiovascular system will enjoy some benefit from it, but there's just a much wider expression of what movement is, and the benefits are profound. Benefits for your brain health, benefits for circulation of all of the fluids through the body, which includes your lymphatic system, which is critical for gut health and also for the strength of your immune system, for anti-inflammatory effects. And so to give you one example, and I got this from a really incredible voice in this context named Katie Bowman. She has a website called Nourishing Movement or Nutritious Movement. And she made the point that your foot has 33 joints. Just your foot alone has 33 joints. So the amount of potential movements, even though they may be very, very subtle movements, is extreme. And so when we spend all of our days in shoes, you may do a lot of movement, but your foot may be completely frozen inside of a shoe. Or you may walk around your house barefoot, but all those surfaces are usually planed and they're flat and smooth. And so there's a way that you will lose certain movement capacities, and your body will just adapt by lack of actually exercising in that particular way. And you may think, well, no big deal. But in fact, there's research that's come out around Alzheimer's and neurodegenerative wellness that has to do with how your feet move. And so this is a great proxy for the whole principle, which is having diverse movement in your repertoire has systemic health effects. So as a kind of simple orientation, you can think about different ways to move all your joints, and that involves a lot of novel movement. So for example, if I'm on a computer and my hands are in that position, this is the position of the wrist. But in fact, the wrist has a full range of motion. I can bend it back, then change the way I position my fingers. You can do all these variations just with your hand and your wrist that would constitute novel movements. And so anything that's going to mobilize all of your joints, sort of systematically giving all of your joints a one through on their range of motion, is an excellent idea. And there's lots of systems that exist, that will show you those kind of motions. They're very safe. They're very accessible. It doesn't take special strength or flexibility. Another way to think about this is there's different planes of movement. There's side movements, there's forward movements, there's backward movements, there's twisting movements, there's inverted movements, there's lying movements, there's seated movements. So what you can think about maybe for example, in your work day is try to pick 10 different positions that you can work in. And if you're in a job where you actually do move around, make sure that you actually take time to inhabit other movements other than just the ones you do when you're getting work done. And it's the same thing is true with exercise. So all those cardio, high intensity workout exercises are great. And what you want to think about is include and diversify your exercise routine to include spontaneous movements, novel movements, so that some of those exercises that may be more strengthening, more linear, more repetitive are balanced by movements that are circular, that are spiraling, that are spontaneous, that are idiosyncratic. And so, if you're wondering what this all adds up to, it kind of adds up to have your own dance party regularly and get very, very weird about how you go for it. All right, I hope that's helpful, and take care.